start with the first match of the weekend, which is in London as Tottenham take on Wolves. Let's hear from both managers, Bruno Lage and Antonio Conte.
We did a little step forward, but we need to continue to complete this step, because to be nasty is very important. It's very important. And I think my team, I try to transfer my passion. I try to transfer the desire to win and to fight in the best way. And for sure, if we want to win, you have to be ready to fight in every game.
We have a good squad. If anyone goes, we need to bring player. Morgan, I don't change nothing. And I believe with us, they can be a top player the same way. I believe he go to Nottingham and he's going to be in 1 or 2 years. I believe in that. One of the best, can be a big impact in the Premier League, and one of the best young footballers to play in the Premier League.
All right, before we get into it, just worth pointing out that at this stage, Antonio Conte will be in the dugout for this match tomorrow. He is not yet serving his punishment after the scenes that we saw with him and Thomas Tuchel in their game on Sunday. If there's any more developments on that, we, of course, will let you know as soon as possible. So I suppose good news for now that Tottenham will have their manager in the dugout. After what we saw against Chelsea last weekend, do you think that passion and that fire that we saw from Antonio Conte will only actually spur the Spurs players on a bit more?
I love him, I have to say, especially from last season going into this. Those images of the Tottenham players in pre-season and just his charisma on the sideline. I think, yeah, he vocally, physically, emotionally will get his team, especially against the Wolves side, who I don't think are at their best at the moment. He'll get them going.
And Andy, you've watched Antonio Conte for a long time in his career when you've been covering European football as well as in the Premier League. Is this just a typical characteristic of him?
Yeah, and we saw it from when he was first at Chelsea and he was celebrating goals by crowd surfing. You know, that's him. He feels it in every moment. And I agree with David. You know, Tottenham have just changed dimension under him. They were drifting, going nowhere really, and now he's put them back in the Champions League. He's really changed the attitude of everyone upstairs at the club to think we can invest, we can get in the Champions League each and every year, not just the odd year, but like we should be in that top 4 every year. And I think you saw that really, the intensity of that game. Of course, it's the first really big game, the first really huge game in the Premier League this season. But there's that sense of we're really fighting it out to be the best club in London at the moment. You really felt that.
It has been confirmed, by the way, by the FA that there will be no touchline ban for Antonio Conte, so he will 100% be in the dugout for the game against Wolves tomorrow.
At times.
At times, yes, at times. I'm sure he'll come out of his technical area at some point, David. What about their start to the season, though? So a 4-1 victory against Southampton, followed by a late draw against Chelsea. Is that type of points that they rescued in the London derby last weekend exactly what Spurs have been missing?
Yeah, take the Southampton game out of that. Obviously, we've only had 2 games, but I think what we saw against Chelsea was what every team who has to come up against Tottenham is going to fear. The fact that at the last minute they are still going to be wanting to be in the game. I mean, if they're winning by goals, they've already won the game, arguably. But this is a Chelsea side who I think a lot of people have fancied to challenge the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool at the top of the league. But in the last minute, they have gone there like the pre-season. They've put in every effort to make something out of the game, and they've achieved it. You don't want to play against teams like that.
Yeah. 6 different goal scorers as well so far, Andy. We saw in every goal they've scored so far has been scored by someone different in the team. How far can that take Tottenham, particularly when you start looking at European competitions and deeper into the season as well? Well,
I think, Jules, we're only really starting to scratch the surface of what they can do. I mean, I think Antonio Conte, he will know they got away with it a little bit at Chelsea. But there's nothing we will know as fans that tastes as good as an undeserved last-minute equaliser, and that's at Stamford Bridge. But I think the first little glimpse we got of Richarlison there, who is a different player to what Tottenham have, and how he really kind of changed the parameters of the game. I mean, really, it was Antonio Conte taking a gamble, and it really worked out. That's what got them the point in the end, that he wasn't just going to stick with what they've got, but try something different. Richarlison offers something completely different. I think if you look at this first part of the season, it's going to be so intense. You think of all the Champions League group games are done by November 7th. That is a lot of football to play between now and the end of November. They're going to need all of those players, and I think Tottenham are quite favourably stacked in that way compared to their rivals.
One player who they won't have for the game against Wolves tomorrow, David, though, is Romero, who's actually been really instrumental in everything good that Spurs have done recently. He's not going to be out injured for as long as they thought initially, which is good news, but he will be missing for tomorrow. How much of a blow is that?
Well, again, I think when you're looking at the opposition, then there's, I say, slight fortune towards Tottenham, because I don't think Wolves are going to be the opposition that they have been in previous seasons. So I think defensively they won't have too much to do, or as much as they might have had to do. So I think they'll be all right this time round.
With Wolves, they have made... Well, they've improved under Bruno Lage. They seem like they're attacking a lot more than they were last season, but they still seem to lack a bit of a clinical finishing touch in front of goal, Andy. Where's that going to come from?
I think in the immediate term it needs to come from Gonzalo Guedes. That doesn't need to be the end of their window, but I think we can't help but underline it. It's easy to look at it from a distance and say, oh, they've just signed 2 Portuguese players. Wolves signed Portuguese players. There's more to it than that, because Gonzalo Guedes on his day, he's relentlessly inconsistent, but when he's on it, he's on it. You know, I think you look at, he signed him for a lot of money for a reason. PSG signed him for a lot of money for a reason. He's cost a lot of cash in his career, and you know he's been Cristiano Ronaldo's partner for the national team. He can play wide, he can play up front. If Lage can get him playing consistently, that is a huge step up for what they've got. And then you've got Matheus Nunes.
Yeah, actually, that's very convenient you mentioned him, Andy, because we can hear from Wolves' new record signing now. Let's hear from him. What will he offer to the side then, Andy? Tell us a bit more about him.
Well, I think you look at the way Bruno Lage wants to play. He wants to play with pace. He wants to get from defence to attack pretty quickly. Matheus Nunes helps you do those two things, because firstly, when he gets on the ball, he can dribble it past players. He's not just a blocker, a tackler. And then he's got great range of passing as well. So he can look for those diagonal runs as well. There are some assists in there, as well as that title, which he was absolutely integral in 2021 in then becoming Portuguese champions ahead of Porto and Benfica, which is a great achievement. And, you know, Portugal have got him, he's Brazilian born, of course, got him into the national team for a reason, because they think he can be a star for them for the next 10 years. I personally think Wolves haven't been a long way away in their opening 2 games.
Yeah.
They could have won those quite easily, but it's just that little bit of quality they've been missing, and Guedes and Nunes should add that.
OK, exciting times for Wolves fans. All right.